Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today on getting rapid start errors. We're going to learn how you can correct them and what causes them. And joining us today is Marlene Mankin from Innovia Consulting, and we're excited to have such a fantastic turnout today. Before I pass it over to Marlene to cover on this hot topic, I would like to remind you that we are recording this session, so it will be available in our on-demand webinar library for you to review and share with anyone. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to type those into the questions box, and we will get them answered during our Q&A time at the end of our session. And so now I will pass it on to Marlene to kick off our presentation.
Thank you, Angie. Hello, everyone. Today, we'll be going through multiple types of errors that can occur when utilizing RapidStart. And I'll go through how to fix them, or at least what I have found in the past that works the best on fixing them. I hope that with the past sessions that we've had, you've been able to get out and play in RapidStart on your test database. So let's get started. So today's objective is really easy. We're going to go ahead and create some errors in RapidStart, and then we're going to fix them. I wanted to start off with this. I know I usually have them in all of my slides, but it's highly recommended that any kind of corrections or changes that you want to make to your data through RapidStart, that you utilize your test database first to make sure that the changes are being made the way you expect them to be made in your database, just as a precaution. So today, the errors we'll be working on, the first one is the field contains a value that can't be found. The second one is a new package is automatically being created. Nothing imports would be the third one. Blank fields, so in other words, lost data. The wrong data is being populated into the wrong field. So, we're going to go through these 5 errors, and the steps I will be using can be used in most data correction or data population. But as you know, when you're working in a Microsoft product, there are always multiple ways to do the same thing. I will be showing you things that I found to make it easier. But as you start working with RapidStart and as you come across these errors, you may even find more shortcuts. And in today's presentation, we'll be working in Business Central, which Business Central has improved RapidStart. So there's one of the errors that I'll bounce back into an older version so that you can see the error, because I know that everyone is not on Business Central yet. So let's get started. Okay, so you should be seeing my my Dynamics now, my Business Central. The first error that we're going to do is field contains the value cannot be found. So I'm going to first get to RapidStart, and I'm going to try to go through these fairly fast. Hopefully it's not too fast for everyone to follow, but we have 5 errors to go through, so I don't want us to run out of time. We're going to go, I like to work out of the configuration worksheet, and it's probably the easiest area for me to demonstrate errors. So I'm going to work on the customer table, but these kind of errors can happen in any table. So the customer table is just the example I pulled. So what we're going to do is the first thing I'm going to do is, for this demonstration, I'm going to filter and limit the fields I'm pulling out so that I'm not pulling out all 68 records of this customer table. So you'll see here I've got it filtering on just customers from 10,000 to 20,000, and we're working in the Cronus database. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to export it, the table. And I'm going to open it. And I'm going to save this file. I'm going to first kind of spread it out. And I'm going to do a file and save as, and put it out in my folder. Okay, so what I'm going to do on this one is the example would be I'm going through and I'm actually changing data. So if you had hundreds of customers and you were going through and maybe you were populating a new dimension code. So you're populating them in here, and I've got a department that I'm populating, and I'm going to, on purpose, make some errors here. I'm going to save the file, and I'm going to exit. And now I'm going to import it back in. Customer 1. Now, in Business Central, they've added this new warning. If you're on an older version, you will not see this warning. Now, after the warning comes up, it just wants to make sure that you're trying to pull in this file. And I'm going to click the import on the top of the ribbon. It's going to import it. You'll notice it imported 2 records. You can drill in and you can look at your records here. What I'm going to do is try to apply them. Now you'll notice it found 2 errors. So when I click OK, it comes up in red. So now I can click on the errors, and it's got both lines listed. I can click on the show error in the upper part of the ribbon, and it's going to tell me what the error is. It says that the department code contains IT and it cannot be found in the dimension value. So it's basically saying that it does not exist in the dimension value. So one of the ways that you can go out and correct it is you can go to your dimensions. So if this is truly a department you wanted to add to your dimensions, you can go out to your dimensions and you can add the value. So we've got department. So this is one of the ways of fixing it. And I'm just going to add a new one, and I'm going to call it IT. Okay. And say OK. So that is one of the ways that we can correct it. We can go back now to your worksheet, and we can go ahead and apply the data again. So we're going to hit apply data, if I could find it in the ribbon. Okay, so now you'll notice it went down to 1 error. So it applied my IT. So what's wrong with this one? So if you remember, I did this on purpose. It has TI. So it's an error in the way I typed it up. Now the nice thing is that nav allows you to correct it here. So we can go out here and just correct it. Oops, didn't mean to put TI, I meant to put IT. And now I'm going to close this, and I'm going to reapply my data. And now we have no errors. So in that example, you saw that a value was missing from one of the tables I was trying to populate, one of the fields I was trying to populate on the customer table. We could correct that by adding it to that table, so that way we could reapply it. Or if a value was typed in incorrectly, you can correct it right in the error screen when you drill in. Or if there's a lot of them that were typed in wrong, like a whole different department, like maybe you meant IT, you put in IT, but you actually meant TC, or you meant sales. So then if there were a lot of records, I would go back to your worksheet, do search and replace all of that with sales, and then come back and re-import it in. So there's multiple ways to correct that error. So I hope that was valuable. We're going to go on to the second error. So the second error is a new package is created. So we're going to again work with our customer list. I'm going to go ahead and export it, and I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to save it. And this is our example 2. So I'm just going to go to customer 2. So in this error, let's say, as an example, I have gone ahead and given customer lists, vendor lists, items, different types of master tables where I've gone ahead and had someone else work on it to clean it up. So maybe they're cleaning up cities, or something got messed up on the customers, or they're validating phone numbers, whatever it may be. When someone else has control over your worksheet, you're not sure what they're really doing with it. And in this case, John went ahead and he was working on this, and he went ahead and he renamed this on me, and then he saved it. So he's got his little cheat sheet list here that he's working on, and he's cleaning everything up, and now he saved it and he sent it back to me. Now I'm ready to import it. And I'm going to go to customer 2 there. Now notice this, what's happening, and this is in Business Central. It thinks that this package does not exist, which it doesn't. John List does not exist. And it's going to create a new package for me. So 2 ways of fixing this. If you're not wanting it to create a brand new package, you would exit out of here and you would go and correct it in your spreadsheet and change it back to Innovia and import it back in. If you were bringing in a table that maybe you did not even set up in here, and you wanted to pull it in and you were creating a new package for it, you could actually create the new package here and say import. So if we were to import, it would bring in the new package. I'm going to go ahead and show you. Now it has John List on here. It has 1 table. If we went back into the spreadsheet, and just corrected it, because we realized, oh, John changed it, and just changed it back, saved it. Now we could go back and export it in, or I'm sorry, import it in. Now notice it came up with Innovia, which is what we wanted originally to do. And it pulled it in, and we can apply the data. We should get no errors. No errors. Okay, so that's the second error that we've gone through, where it's automatically creating a package on us, which tells you that that package is not created, that's showing in that worksheet, and it might be because someone changed that first field. So that brings us to our third one, where nothing imports. Now, you saw on Business Central, it gives you that warning, but not all versions of RapidStart work that way. So I'm going to minimize this and go to a copy I have on my desktop. And right now I'm in 2017 nav. And we'll go to RapidStart. We're going to go out to the configuration worksheet again. And we're going to go ahead and work with customer. And I am going to go ahead and export it. Nope, I didn't filter on the customers, so we're going to have a little longer list, I think. Yep, we do. That's okay. It still gives you the example. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this. Actually, let me find. There we go. I know I created a folder for it. So now we have our table saved. And now something similar may happen where maybe someone actually deleted a whole row. We're just going to blank these out so that you can get a good example of what happens. So they worked on this table for you, they cleaned it up, they went ahead and they deleted a row, blanked something out. Now it's been sent back to you. Now we're going to import it in. And nothing happened. So that tells you that something is wrong with that table, the table you're trying to pull in. So if we go back to that table, and let's open it up. What was this one I'm using temp. Just need to make sure I know which one I'm using. Now if I go back and I import the table in, now notice it is importing it, which is great. And notice it did not need customer in the center. So really what it's dependent on is the package and the table. So if they're all three missing, you're going to have problems. If the table is missing, you're going to have problems. If the package is missing, you're going to have problems. This is on the older versions. On the newer version of Business Central, you can have the package different, and it will try to create a package for you. So let's apply and make sure we're not getting any errors. Make sure I'm not telling you everything accurately. Okay, there we go, no errors. So now I'm going to switch back to our Business Central. So we're back in our Business Central. And the fourth error that we're going to work on, and we're doing good on our timing, so that's perfect. The fourth error is blank fields where data gets lost. Okay, so we're going to again work with our customer table. And this time, what I am going to do is I'm going to export it out again. I'm going to open, I'm going to save it. You could save it directly without opening it. I like to open it to make sure that I've got what I think, what I'm expecting in my table. So we'll save this. To customer 4. Okay, so we have someone helping us again. Now we've got our table out here. They're going through and maybe they're updating some contact numbers, cities maybe. And while they're working in this table, they go ahead and decide, you know, besides the phone number, I don't know why Marlene gave me all of these columns. I don't need these columns. I'm not changing these columns. And they go through and they delete all these columns. So it'll just take me a minute here. There we go. So let me just delete all these columns. So now this person's just working in the data they want. So they're putting in, maybe they put in, I'm just going to put in test here. And I'm going to put test 2. Oop, there we go. And I'm going to save the data. And I'm going to send this back to Marlene, who's working on this, and tell her this table is ready for her. So now, as I go to pull it in, I'm going to import. And yes, I want to import my customer 4. That looks right. Import. Pulled it in. Has 2 records. I'm excited. I go ahead and apply the data. Actually, I want to show you something before we lose it. I'm going to drill down into this package records here for you to see. You notice that none of the other columns are there because she removed them. And we've got the data that she updated or he updated. We're going to click out of here and I'm going to apply the data. Looks beautiful, no errors. Now when I drill down into the records, here's the customer records. You could go to the customer table, customer card, or you can drill in that way. And these are the 2 customers we worked on. Now you notice something? Nothing is out there. It's like a lot of records, a lot of fields got cleared. If I open it, you're going to see that a lot got cleared out. So now there's no posting fields, there's no payment terms. We literally cleared out the data, which is very scary. So how do we recover from that? Well, there's a couple things that we can do. Before you do something major, like a table update of some sort, you can go ahead and you can export it and keep a copy of it. When you're updating production records, you really need to do it on off hours so that no one's modifying records while you're modifying records. Another best practice, of course, would be what I would do is I would export my table before I pass it on to someone to modify it. And then that way, when I apply the data, if something gets messed up, I actually have records that I can recover to. The other thing that you can do, let's see, do I want to cover all? The other thing you can do is that you can actually limit the fields that you pull in. So what we're going to do first is we are going to go ahead and import the copy I made beforehand. So this is a copy of 10,000 to 2,000 that I made beforehand, and I'm going to import that in to correct this data. So I'm going to apply the data. So no harm when you can put it back. So that's great. If we drilled down into it, you would see now on these 2 records, see how now a location came back. If we opened this up, we would see a lot more records or a lot more information, a lot more fields filled in. We're not missing the contact. We're not missing the posting groups. Everything is beautiful again. So let's go back. Now, if I noticed in advance that they gave me back a table where they eliminated all the other records, I can literally go ahead. We're going to make this small. I'm going to kind of run it down here so we could see it. And then I'm going to go to nav. And what I'm going to do is limit the fields that I'm pulling back in. So I'm going to go to fields available. And what I'm going to do is, since there's so few fields that they kept, let me see if I can squeeze it so that we can see everything at once. Nothing like having to rearrange here. Okay. Good. All we need to really see is the field names. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the list, and then I'm going to set clear or clear included. So that eliminated it down to my key field. And then I'm going to go ahead and match the fields that they gave me back. So we've got the search name, we've got the name to, we have address, address to, city, contact, and phone number. So now if I click OK, if I refresh the screen, you're going to see I only have 9 records or 9 fields. And if we count for, I have 9 fields. So now I'm going to close this, and we're going to re-import. And now I'm going to import. And if we drill down into the data that we just pulled in, we're going to see that there's no blank fields except for the ones that were intended from that spreadsheet to be blank. So I'm going to apply the fields or apply the records. And now if I drilled in, you're going to see 10,000 and 20,000. And everything's there. The only thing I forgot to do is I forgot to add that test into the record. Let me do that really quick, just so you can see it pulling in. Let me add a phone number. Okay. Let me get out of here. And let me make sure that it still shows properly. And it shows it's validating, so that's good. And we're going to go ahead and import. Let me make this big again. We're going to go ahead and import it. And I'm going to apply the records. You can see them out there. No errors. Let's go look at our customer. Okay, you can see the phone number already on this one. And I don't know where name 2 is. It looks like name 2 is not really showing, so that's why that test did not show. But it does show the phone number that I added. So you can see the data got added. So that would be a way of not losing your data, making sure that your columns are correct on what you get back from someone cleaning up data. Or even if you cleaned up data in case you made a mistake. So, so what we saw is that when someone gives you back a spreadsheet, they might delete columns, they may remove things that could cause you errors, or could actually literally blank out fields, which is scary. You definitely would want to, the best practices would be test it first in your test database, make sure it doesn't blank anything out. The other best practice would be to have a copy before you apply. So export a copy before you apply. The other thing would be to make sure your columns, the total on your spreadsheet that comes back is identical to the spreadsheet or to the fields that you're including. I think that that is pretty much it with this specific error. So we've got one more error left that I wanted to cover, and it's wrong data being populated to the wrong field, and it's very similar to the one we just did. So, so what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and first clean up my data back to original. So now we have our everything back to original. You notice that now it has all the fields included. So what I am going to do is just double check my filtering. If I could hit it, there we go. Yep, I still have my filtering set, so that's good. We're just going to work on those 2 records. So there is an area in here that I want to go through, and it's validation. And everyone asks about the validation field a little bit. And what validation does, the best practice is to not turn off validation on fields. Sometimes there is a need to turn it off, but if you're not used to working in RapidStart, it's pretty important to maybe not turn it off. What validation does is nav BC will do the same validation that happens when you're entering in data into the table. So for instance, let's go out here, and I am just going to call up an item. It's the easiest one to show you on validation. So I'm going to go into bicycles, and I know that on Cronus here, I've sold many bicycles, so I know I've used this item before. And I'm going to go down and say I'm going to change the unit of measure. I can't remember where it is. Let's see, here it is. Ah, here it is. I looked right over it. So say I'm going to change this and make it pallets. When I hit enter, it's going to give me an error. It's going to say you cannot change the base unit of measure because there's already 1 or more open ledger entries on it. So nav will protect you from yourself. It will help you by letting you know you really don't want to change it because you already have sold items at the other values. So that is validation. Another validation would be the populating of a table inside here where the unit of measure doesn't exist, or in the customer's case where possibly where we had that global dimension where IT did not exist. So that's validation. So I'm going to hit F5, and that's just going to get rid of our error, put us back to normal. And now we'll go back to our RapidStart piece. Okay, so that's what the validation does on your fields. So what I want to show you is how turning it off will affect you. So we're going to work again in the customer. I'm going to get in my edit list. I'm going to go ahead and clear included. Now it clears everything out on me. And I am going to just give, let me go through and do just a few fields here. Actually, name to, address. Maybe I'll just drop down to phone number. And then I'm going to go and do territory and global. Okay, that looks good. And let me take out address. Okay. Yeah, so we'll just do these few fields. So we have a few fields. So if I hit F5, we've got the few fields. Now I am going to go back in and I'm going to remove the validate. I'm going to click OK. I'm just going to double check and make sure it hung on to no validate. Okay, we're good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to export. And I'm going to save this. Oops, save. Example 5. Okay, so again, I'm in here. I go ahead and I delete a couple columns. I decide I don't need a couple columns here. And I've gone ahead and maybe made some changes. I'm saving it. Close it. Now I'm ready to import it back in. Okay, so I am going to show you what the data looks like. Notice how it shifted like we had with the other example. Cancel out of here. I'm going to apply the data. And I have no errors. How scary is that? So if we went out to our customer, we just made the phone number sales, which is crazy. So we just messed up our stuff. We messed up our data on accident. So let's go back. And now I need to pull in and clean up my data again. So I'm going to recover my list, my clean list. And I'm going to verify just to validate. It's almost like a magic trick, right? I have to show you that it actually, the data is okay and there's no sales and phone number, which is good. Excellent. So now what we're going to do, and hopefully the screens aren't refreshing too fast. Now what we're going to do is we're going to limit our fields again. I'm going to go ahead. I have found this unusual, quirky thing that happens. Once you've unchecked validation, when I refresh when I pull in my corrected data, my clean data, it doesn't always put validate back on. So keep an eye on that. That could be something that could happen to you in your data. So I'm going to go ahead and set included, clear. Let me clear first. Oh, I see what I'm in. I'm also in the fields included instead of fields available. So now let me go back into fields available. I'm going to set included. Okay, so now all of them are validated. I did notice this in the test in any of the databases. They don't validate on contacts. Not sure why, but I'm sure that there's a reason that NAV has it skipping that one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to clear included. I'm just going to select those same values again. We had the name to, we had phone number, we had territory, global dimension, and this time I'm going to leave the validate on. I'm going to click OK, refresh. I've got 7 fields. I'm just going to verify that validate is on. Now I'm going to export again. And I'm going to open the table. I'm going to save it. I'm going to delete 2 fields or 2 columns here. Save it. And now I'm going to import it. That's another strange thing. So once in a while, I'll find where you have to click off the line and click back on the line. Okay, so now let's look at our data that we just pulled in. And what we've got here, notice we still have damaged data because I removed 2 columns, but we'll see what happens when I apply it. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the data. And this time it found errors. So there's your validation working. So let's go in and look at the errors. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to click on one of the lines and say show the error. and you cannot enter letters into this field. So it's saying that on the phone number, you can't enter letters. So let me look at my phone number. Sure enough, I cannot enter letters into the phone number, and it's got sales there. So now I realized what I did. So there's a couple different ways of cleaning this. If it's just a couple records, you can manually clean it. You know, you can just copy and paste these over into territory and global dimension. If it turns out to be a lot of records, I would prefer going back to my spreadsheet and cleaning it up. So if I removed records and cleaned them up, I can actually insert the columns back. So I don't know if that made sense, but if I open up this column, you can go ahead and insert a column and title it, but it has to be identical to your field up here. So it has to be identical to name 2. If you don't type in name 2 and you put a space between name and 2, it will not work. The other thing that you can do, so if it's a lot of fields, you can come back here, you can insert the columns back in. If it's not a lot of fields, you can literally just change it here like we did on those other corrections. Or you can go out here with the errors sitting out there. It's okay that you have errors sitting out there. You can go out here and you can remove them from this when you pull them in. So again, if someone modified your document, let's go ahead and go back in. And that message was just telling me I was in the fields included and that the filter had changed because I had unflagged those. So in these errors, you can actually literally, let's see. Yep, good. Good, it reconfigured it already. So now I can actually just apply the data and see if I get any errors. No errors. So that's awesome. So even with the errors up there, you can reconfigure your fields included and then reapply, which is a great way of doing it. So as you can see, with this last error, with wrong data populating to the wrong field, a few things you'll want to make sure is that you leave validation on. Validation's pretty important. Remove the fields that were removed from the worksheet to match it. You can, if there were fields removed, you can match it on your fields included, your fields available, and or you can correct it in your worksheet by adding a column and then re-importing in. I hope that these covered all the errors that you have been struggling with or have seen and make some clearer. So I do want to cover a couple limitations before we go to questions. And some of the limitations that I just want to remind you of is in Standard Nav or Business Central, you cannot update history with new data. I get asked that question a lot. So yeah, you cannot update history. Some tables can cause you to corrupt your data if you change them. So in the case of that item, unit of measure, if you were to be updating your item table and forcing in changes on unit of measure, you can corrupt your data if you turned that validate off. It's important to remember to do anything that you want to change or any corrections to do in your test database first. You may even have to test and make sure a sales order goes through after you've changed something. Another thing that I've been asked, there is no undo button. So it's really important that you feel what you're putting in is correct. We have seen some nightmares that have caused a lot of pain for customers to correct, and we don't want you to go through that. Another limitation is the system tables. Nav or Microsoft does not allow you to modify anything in system tables. They're the tables that start off with the 2000000, like permission set. You cannot populate things to the permission set. So those are the limitations. And are there any questions? Angie, are there any questions?
Thank you, Marlene. No, there are no questions at this time, but if anybody does have any, feel free to type those into the questions box and we'll get those answered for you. Or if you'd like to contact Marlene individually, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, and I hope that you found value in going through these multiple types of errors that can occur when you're working with RapidStart, and hopefully I was able to show you how to fix them. If I was not able to cover an error that you've seen, as Angie said, or one that while you're working on in the future, please feel free to reach out. I really want to thank you for spending part of your day with me. I know that everyone's time is so valuable. So, Angie, you want to take it back?
Yes, thank you again, Marlene, and thank you for everyone on today's call, or if you're watching on demand, we thank you for joining us. And we do have a few more webinars coming soon. On Tuesday, September 10th, we actually have 2 webinars going on. The first one will take place in the morning, and that will be with Merge Tool. And they're going to be presenting on control access to specific fields, actions, pages, and sensitive data with easy security. And then we have Dynamic Communities, and they're going to be presenting on why participating in BCUG Navug could be the smartest thing you've ever done. And check out our website for more of our upcoming events, and that's innovia.com/events. And we also want to mention that we have our new podcast going on. It's called the Innovia Conversation, and you can find out about all the different podcast platforms to listen to on our podcast page, and that's innovia.com/podcast. So check out the selection and subscribe so you get notified on all the new episodes. And Innovia is proud to be a platinum sponsor of BCUG Navug Summit in Orlando, Florida this year. And those dates are October 13th through the 18th. And if you haven't registered already, or if you want more information about Summit, you can check out our conference page on our website, and that's innovia.com/conferences. All right, well, thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on another Innovia webinar. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks, Marlene.
Thank you, Angie. Have a great day, everyone.